Dauphin Island lies 3 miles off the coast of Alabama. The entire island is a bird sanctuary and is considered one of the best birding spots in all of Alabama during the seasonal migrations. The fragile wetlands that surround the island are year-round home to a host of wildlife. Travel brochures brag about the solitude and the natural quiet of the island's diverse beauty. Early Native Americans came here to fish and built these prehistoric shell mounds centuries ago. Fishing is still a vital part of both the culture and the economy of Dauphin Island. It is best known as a fishing resort, and seasonal tournaments pump thousands of tourists into the area for vacations in its unspoiled beauty. Off-season, the tourists leave, but commercial fishing continues. To the people of Dauphin Island, the quality of the fishing is directly related to the quality of the water. Here, where fishing is both a livelihood and a pastime, anything that threatens the water threatens a way of life. When the drilling rigs first moved in to tap the large gas reserves in the area, there was friction between the fishermen and industry. Today, an uneasy alliance exists thanks in part to government regulations and the extreme efforts of the drilling industry to help protect a marine estuary renowned for its rich catches of shrimp, oysters, and fish. Even though natural gas cannot wash up on shore like oil, all drilling activities in the area are closely monitored for any discharges and must comply with numerous environmental restrictions. Mobil's APMC Rig 16 is no exception. They invited us out to discuss some of their environmental concerns and some of their solutions.
From the earliest planning stages of this project, it was our desire to minimize the impact of our drilling operations both on the local environment and on the local community of Dauphin Island, which in this case is only some 3,000 feet away.
We have several environmental concerns on this site. Primarily is the zero discharge would be one of the major concerns.
In simple words, the Alabama zero discharge provision is there will be nothing to go into Mobile Bay or the state waters of Alabama during drilling operations.
That means there will be no waste or solids or anything that will spill into the bay area. Everything has to be collected and disposed of from this location. That's kind of a challenge when you consider that things just splash a little bit. People accidentally drop, something could blow over the side. That's something that's not allowed.
This provision protects the estuaries here in the Mobile Bay area, the overall environment within the Mobile Bay and Dauphin Island area, as well as the beaches, the wildlife on the island. It's primarily designed to protect the pristine environment that surrounds this area.
Being out in a bay area, you usually have constant wind. There's not really a still place, so even garbage cans need tops on them and things like that, and it's something you have to kind of educate people to too.
We've taken several measures to comply with the zero discharge provisions here in Alabama. First of all, in the rig itself, we've made several modifications to the rig drainage systems for mudding cuttings, as well as rainwater drain off, rig water drain off, and sewerage.
A barge drilling unit was the best choice for the shallow waters of the drilling area. Since APMC 16 was an older unit, it had to be completely reworked in the shipyard to meet the environmental requirements of Mobile Bay. All support boats for the unit also underwent modifications for pollution control. On the rig, 4-inch kick plates were installed around all exposed decks. Special drains were fabricated to carry rainwater runoff from the decks to a central sump in the bottom of the facility. A pump was added to transfer the sump water to the waste containment barge. Treated waste from the sewage treatment plant also had to be routed to the waste barge. In addition, the mud system had to be modified. The old discharge lines, which used to discharge mud and cuttings under the rig, were sealed up and made inoperable, and new discharge lines were routed to a second waste containment barge.
We've been able to segregate those waste into two separate containment barges, one for the mud and cuttings, the other for the rainwater and wash water, as well as the sewage.
One of the most unpredictable wastewater considerations on the coast is rainwater runoff. Even a temporary squall can quickly raise the level of wastewater in the containment barge by several inches. Since everything in the barge must be shipped and disposed of as waste, water and waste conservation in other areas on the rig becomes increasingly important. In 1991, disposal costs ran $58,000 for a chemical waste barge and $28,000 for a sewage barge.
When you say zero discharge, you want to even minimize like shower water, the gray water that's produced, and the galley water. I mean, all these little things really add up to large volumes of water with this many people in a close proximity. You want to minimize that, and it's just basic recycling. We want to try to educate our people again, basic recycling methods.
In addition to the zero discharge, we also have incorporated an extensive minimum waste program, or waste minimization program. Some of the things we've done to incorporate this are, number one, we have bulk packaged a large majority of our drilling fluids products, primarily our bentonite and our barite. We're using bulk tanks rather than sack material to bring these products to the rig, thereby saving the waste that's generated on the pallets, the wrappings themselves, and the shrink wrap and metal band that is used to contain these products.
Between startup and the time of our visit, using bulk materials had eliminated 7,575 paper sacks, 127 wooden pallets, 506 shrink wraps, and a number of metal bands.
Waste minimization is a bigger issue here in the Alabama waters than some areas. Landfill space is fairly scarce in Alabama. They've already taken a position of no new landfills. Drilling mud and cuttings, since you cannot discharge them under the no discharge requirements in the state, have to be treated and disposed of in another manner.
Since drilling mud is one of the largest sources of waste, mud management and recycling are major economic factors. It is important to reuse as much drilling fluid as possible.
The other thing that we have done is we've incorporated a dewatering system on this rig. In addition to our normal solids control equipment, which consists of your typical shale shakers and desanders and desilters and centrifuges, any of the mud and cuttings that goes into our containment barge as we are generating these solid waste from the wellbore and removing them is then pumped from the containment barge back up to our dewatering system on the rig.
At the dewatering system, the fluid is chemically treated to flocculate or clump the suspended solids. This gel-like material is then run through a large centrifuge. The result is an almost clear water that can be returned to the active drilling stream.
With this system, we are able to dewater this mud and cuttings, returning a dry cutting back to the containment barge and producing a clear water which we can then reuse into our drilling fluid. On this rig to date, we have recycled or reused over 25,000 barrels of fluid that we have recovered from our drilling waste. In addition to being able to recycle this fluid, it also eliminates the need for us to have to haul that fluid to a disposal site somewhere on land where it would then be either treated or injected.
With rising public pressure to clean up the Gulf, zero discharge regulations may be adopted by other states, and dewatering could help cut waste costs. The main drawbacks are that not all muds can be dewatered, and some water-based muds aren't suitable for drilling in some formations. Soon, this facility will encounter such a formation, so it is switching over to a mud that can't be dewatered. Even so, the waste savings on this section of well have been well worth the leasing expenses of the dewatering equipment.
It was Most of the employees that I've met within the company are very environmentally conscious, and I find that's true across the board. It just makes good business sense. There's resources are somewhat limited, and you want to make the most of what you've got. So the commitment is a business decision, and it protects the environment to leave a place for future generations also.
We've taken some steps in our mud products to eliminate hazardous materials that we use to make up our mud and substituted non-hazardous materials in their place. For instance, in place of chrome lignosulfonate, which is widely used in the oil field in the Gulf of Mexico, here in Mobile Bay and now throughout the Gulf of Mexico, we've gone to chrome-free lignosulfonate, eliminating the chrome, which is considered a heavy metal and considered to be toxic. Another example is zinc oxide, which is used as a mud product for H2S scavenging. We've substituted that with ironite sponge, which is non-hazardous. In doing this, we keep ourselves from a situation which may occur if we were to have a spill, which we certainly don't anticipate. But in the unlikely event that we were to have a spill, the mud that would go into these waters would be non-hazardous, would be non-toxic, would not contain any harmful heavy metals, and would not be nearly as devastating as would possibly be with some of the other products. It also allows us, in the waste that we do generate, that we do have to haul to land farms and to injection wells, that waste is also non-hazardous.
Rig 16 has also opted to substitute non-hazardous or less hazardous materials for other rig products. For instance, they use a copper-based pipe dope instead of a lead-based material, and they have substituted an environmentally safe water-soluble mineral oil for their BOP fluid.
A second real problem at this site, or maybe it's an opportunity to do business a different way, is the H2S, the hydrogen sulfide. That's a poison gas substance that's found in the natural gas in this area. That's a very much a safety concern from the surrounding area, the residents that live on the Dolphin Island close to the rig site, and for our employees also.
The rig has extensive H2S monitoring equipment. Even though they have yet to reach H2S bearing formations, all employees are trained in H2S procedures. All visitors to the rig must also be H2S certified and must demonstrate the ability to don and operate emergency breathing equipment.
We know where the H2S is in the Earth's formation pretty much, that we're geared up to be looking for it. We've not had any problems and we don't anticipate any, but that does make your drilling operation pay a little bit more close attention.
Should we take an influx of formation fluids that would contain H2S when we drill into our target formation, we have the ability to circulate those well fluids back through an H2S certified choke manifold and surface handling equipment, whereby we would strip out the liquid component of the returning fluid stream from the gas stream. The gas stream, of course, would contain the H2S component.
After going through a degassing system, the gas stream would then be flared out 100-foot high stacks to burn the H2S. This turns the potentially deadly H2S into sulfur dioxide, or SO2. SO2 is also a toxic gas, but its dangers are minimized when it is flared high into the atmosphere.
And SO2 in the atmosphere can cause people to have headaches and a little bit of nausea, loss of appetite, things like that. And if we have a serious well problem that we actually have to flare, we will have this SO2. We've done extensive modeling just to make sure where when it dips down, that it would not dip down towards this Dolphin Island or some residential community and people would feel the headaches. It's not an acute thing like an immediate hospitalization, but people would not feel well.
Mobile's Loss Prevention Department has worked closely with the local community to establish contingency plans in the event the rig does have a release of H2S. In addition, Mobile has implemented several voluntary environmental projects so that their overall operations will have a minimum impact on the local community.
Because we were so near to the residential areas that line the shoreline here, the operational noise that we would generate was one of the first and most immediate concerns that we had. The last thing we wanted to do was to create a nuisance condition to the community. So we did some research and designed and implemented a noise abatement program that would minimize the amount of noise that would be audible at the island.
Rig 16 is a diesel-electric rig, and the largest source of noise comes from the diesel prime movers that drive the AC generators. Secondary exhaust silencers installed on each of the engines successfully toned down the exhaust noise. Fan mufflers were installed on the ventilating fans to dampen the irritating, monotonous noise that they typically generate. In addition, noise-proofing mats were installed around the principal noise sources facing the shoreline to contain the noise generated on the pipe deck and the rig floor. Ambient noise surveys taken before and after the rig was moved in proved that the noise abatement program has been successful.
In other words, while we may not be completely inaudible all the time, most of the time you can't hear us from the shoreline, and we're certainly, in our judgment, not creating any sort of nuisance condition.
In addition to noise abatement, Rig 16 takes extra pains to maintain a good appearance.
The appearance of the facility, I feel like, weighs greatly. Public relations is one of the biggest things a company does have control over to a large degree. A nice looking facility, a facility that's clean, that everything seems to be in a set place, that nothing is left out, everything is picked up, put up in its proper place when it's through, gets you a lot of mileage as far as public support. They feel like if you can do this end of your business, you'll be taking care of some of the other ends of your business too. We have a lot of visitors, a lot of fishing boats, people that are right up close to our facility, so they're able to actually see how you operate day in and day out. We have a lot of guest tours and spend a lot of time inviting people out to come take a look at our facility, local residents, local government officials, just by invitation, not waiting for them to request it. We feel like this way we do keep a neat facility, a clean facility. It's well painted, it's well lighted. If they come out and see it, they don't have the fear or the wondering what Mobile is doing.
In addition, Mobile decided to implement a community service project in order to help build goodwill with the local residents.
When we dredged this location here, the water depth in the area of the bay that we're currently drilling in, the natural depth was 6 to 8 feet. We had to dredge this out to 9 feet to create the location here for the drilling barge.
We removed the sand so we were able to make a little channel to get the rig in. And all the fill material that we had dredged up, we actually did use in a beach nourishment project.
We could have transported this to the Gulf and dumped it in the approved dumping areas for such fill material, but instead the beachfront on Dauphin Island had recently been ravaged by Hurricane Frederick, and they had suffered some severe erosion right around their public pier area.
We actually barged the material there. We placed it in strategic locations around the island to help stop the erosion, and it appears it's been successful so far that the new material is filling in on top of our placed material. These are things we gain not only PR, but you kind of help protect some of the wetland area along that part of the coastline too.
So, as we have seen, protecting the environment is a complicated and expensive process. But it is a process that more and more companies are undertaking willingly despite the expense. Many ask if the costs of protection are too high. The local residents and fishermen on Dauphin Island don't think so. And, as one oilfield hand pointed out, nobody would be drilling here if they couldn't turn a profit. Perhaps Dauphin Island is proof that industry can coexist with nature, given enough time, money, and the right working attitude.